What is the truth? Would you rather know the truth or not know at all, and be blinded by general or cultural beliefs and judgments?
Have you ever heard of the two theories of truth? Did you know that there is a basis for the truth that we follow when we are presented with such claims? And how one is able to verify if the claims are true?
Today, we will be talking about the coherence and correspondence theories of truth to help us analyze and verify claims to decide whether they are the truth.
Here, modules 4 and 5 of Andresito Acuña's philosophical analysis will be featured.
The coherence theory of truth. Like the name, this theory is based on the nature of coherence between the two philosophical categories of a given statement. This coherence can be obtained through rationalism. This theory also requires statements to have logical consistency for it to be considered as the truth. It also takes into account a statement's formal knowledge claim and its formal system that always have to be coherent or related to each other for it to be established as the truth. And the most important part after classifying the two philosophical categories used is to determine the kind of coherence relation that we can obtain between the two philosophical categories. Also, the philosopher's account of the nature of coherence relation largely depends on the two categories the theory is attempting to relate. The two philosophical categories used in this theory are, first, formal knowledge claims, and second, formal systems. So, formal knowledge claims are claims written in the nature of an analytic statement found in the formal sciences, and examples of these are mathematical coherence and logical coherence, while formal systems are an abstract structure or system that is used for inferring theorems from axioms according to a set of rules, usually based on logical and mathematical implications. Examples of these are mathematics, logic, geometry, and linguistic systems. Let us use the statement 2 times 2 equals 4 as an example for us to apply the coherence theory to. So, based on the theory, we need to analyze the first philosophical category, which is the formal knowledge claim. So as we can see, 2 times 2 equals 4 is a mathematical statement. Therefore, it deals with mathematical coherence. So next, we ask ourselves, what formal system of the second category is being followed in this statement? So we can see that 2 times 2 equals 4 is multiplication and it involves numbers. So we can say that the formal system that this statement follows is the formal system of arithmetic because we are dealing with numbers and operations. So this statement is a mathematical coherence with the formal system of arithmetic. Of course, the formal knowledge claims will be different in the case of a tautological statement. Let's consider these statements. Either I pass or I don't, to be or not to be. If your statement is true, then it is true. So looking at these, we can say that these statements require us to use our logic to decipher their meanings, right? So this means that these statements have logical coherence, which is their formal knowledge claim. So now, let's determine what formal system these statements have. Looking at them, we can see that there is a pattern that follows symbolic logic. So, we can say that these statements have logical coherence with the formal system of symbolic logic. The sum of the angles of a rectangle is equal to 360 degrees. A square is a geometric figure with 4 equal sides. Two lines that are parallel will not meet. These are all mathematical statements. These are well-formed formulas of geometry. In fact, all the statements that were given are well-formed formulas of the formal system that they cohere with. Well, well-formed formulas, or WFF, are formulas accepted as universal and proven to be true according to the assumptions of the systems where they belong. An example for this is the Pythagorean theorem in mathematics and geometry. Let's consider the statement, kittens are young cats. The word kittens must cohere with how the term kittens is used in the English language. And the same treatment must be made to the examples like all bachelorettes are unmarried women, mothers are female parents, sisters are female siblings, and all animals with hooves are herbivores. Our last statement for this theory is amphibians are animals that can live on land and water. The term amphibians must cohere with the stipulative definition of the term amphibians in the empirical system of zoology. Next, let's talk about the second theory of truth, which is the correspondence theory of truth. Like the coherence theory, this theory is based on the relation of at least two philosophical categories. It uses empiricism or knowledge acquired from our senses and experiences. The nature of correspondence relation is determined by the nature of the first and the second categories used. If we use formal knowledge claims and formal systems for the coherence theory, for this theory we use the philosopher's empirical knowledge claim and the philosopher's theory of reality. The two philosophical categories used are, first, the philosopher's empirical knowledge claim or the philosopher's empirical statement, and second, the philosopher's theory of reality. The philosopher's empirical knowledge claim or empirical statement is the knowledge that comes from experience that is gathered through the five senses, which are sight, hear, touch, smell, and taste. Let's apply the correspondence theory to the statement, the cat is on the mat. For this claim to be true, what it asserts must correspond with the state of affairs where there is a cat and a mat and the cat is on top of the mat. So, if the statement corresponds to the state of affairs, then the claim is true, but if it does not, then it is false. So that you'll know, you'll need to use your senses to determine if the statement is true. In this case, you'll need to use your sight to determine if it's true or not. You won't believe the statement the cat is on the mat at once. You'll only believe it when you see it. So if you see a cat in a mat and the cat is on top of the mat, then the claim is true. But this statement can only be true if it can be verified using the five senses. Now, let's talk about the realist version of the correspondence theory of truth. So this version can be used in verifying empirical claims and evaluative claims. And this realist version has four types. First, let's talk about correspondence with direct observation. It is correspondence with direct observation if the empirical claim is about an event in the present. Example, the girl beside me is wearing a purple sweater and my classmates are noisy. Next, correspondence with future observation. It is correspondence with future observation if the empirical claim is a prediction about a future event. So we use the evidence of past events. Example, the sun will rise tomorrow. Earthquakes are often followed by aftershocks, as well as nimbus clouds mean it is going to rain. Next is the correspondence with the use of documents and testimonies of eyewitnesses. It is correspondence with the use of documents and testimonies of eyewitnesses if the empirical claim is about the past. So we use documents and testimonies to verify the claims. Examples of these are People Power 1 succeeded due to US intervention, and it was Galman who killed Ninoy Aquino. The last type is the correspondence with the evidence provided by the representative sample of the population concerned. It is correspondence with the evidence provided by the representative sample of the population concerned if the claim is an empirical generalization and varying degrees of generality. Examples for these are almost all UP students who study hard finish their courses, and most UP professors are qualified to teach their courses. Another way for us to verify claims is using what we call intersubjective consensus. Intersubjective consensus are collective beliefs about morals or values shared among real people playing a language game and sharing a form of life. These have already been codified in the form of a moral rule or moral principle. Say the evaluative claim stealing is wrong. Stealing is wrong is an example of a moral rule or principle. This claim is a generalization of the intersubjective consensus of real people playing a language game while sharing a form of life. The people all agree that stealing is wrong, right? That makes it a consensus because everyone agrees that stealing is in fact wrong. You may ask, how do we verify this claim by using the correspondence theory of truth? If you accept the claim stealing is wrong, then you're in fact claiming that your evaluative judgment is supported by a strong intersubjective consensus based on a general agreement. To gather intersubjective consensus is an empirical task. Thus, it complies with the process of verification using the correspondence theory of truth. This empirical task becomes easier if and when the judgment stealing is wrong corresponds with the value or moral system of the concerned public. It means that an intersubjective consensus about moral and immoral behavior has already been codified in the form of a moral rule or a moral principle. Consequently, if an evaluative judgment is an instantiation of a moral principle, this means that it has the backing of a strong intersubjective consensus. Take, for example, plagiarism is wrong. Do you think that there's anybody who will disagree with that claim and say that plagiarism is good? No, right? So, if you accept the claim, then you should accept the prescription. Otherwise, you'll be guilty of dissonance. Dissonance means doing something that goes against one of your values. It means that if you accept the claim plagiarism is wrong, then you should also accept the prescription. Do not plagiarize is the correct and proper thing to do. How do we falsify the prescriptive claim never punish an innocent person and never torture a human being for fun? To falsify these statements, we should say that punishing an innocent person is good and torturing a human being for fun is good. By doing that, we have falsified the claim, but it doesn't end there. In order to falsify a claim, you have to find a strong intersubjective consensus concerning the two evaluative statements to say that you have succeeded in falsifying the two prescriptions. So, prescriptions as well as prescriptions are evaluative inferences from evaluative judgments asserting what is good, moral, virtuous, desirable, or just. An example for this is, if you accept that premarital sex is wrong, then you must also accept the prescription do not engage in premarital sex is right. This prescription is falsifiable by offering an evaluative claim that premarital sex is good. Examples of legal or policy proposals in the form of a prescription: prostitution should be legalized, or a prescription, do not legalize wedding. Other examples of these are never negotiate with terrorists, two-child policy should curb our population growth, and total logging ban should be implemented for the next 25 years. The strength of an evaluative claim rests on the strength of the intersubjective consensus of the concerned public or audience, and this consensus can focus on the value of the nature of the act or the behavior itself. So now, we are at the last part of Module 4, in which we will be talking about the two types of justification of the act or policy. First, let's talk about deontological. This means to evaluate the morality of a policy based on its rightness or wrongness, regardless of its consequences. Our example for this is, the total logging ban is good. This is deontological because we just look at the fact that total logging ban is good. We don't think of the consequences that the total logging ban would bring. We just know that we should ban logging. The next is teleological. This is the justification of the act or policy by evaluating the morality of a policy by determining if the consequences of the policy is good or bad based on the outcome, whether it results in beneficial consequences. An example for this is, gambling in a casino is legalized even if we know that it is an immoral policy. Even if it is immoral, they justify it as beneficial for the economy because, of course, the best justification for a legal or policy proposal is to demonstrate that the nature of the act is good in itself and the consequence of the act is beneficial to the greater number. In addition, no aversive consequence is anticipated. And with that, we are now finished with the discussion of Module 4.
After knowing the theories of truth and applying the method of verification by intersubjective consensus in justifying acts and consequences, you are now ready for the final step in completing your lesson towards the pursuit of truth, your obligation as a critical thinker. If there is something that you need to pick up from this video, Something that you might want to apply in your life. It would be to never accept the truth of a statement unless there is adequate evidence for it. What this implies is that if there is no adequate evidence to a belief, then you must either reject the belief or suspend judgment. The practice is referred to as healthy skepticism. At times, dismissing these opinions or judgments is not a terrible thing. If the majority holds a particular opinion, it doesn't imply that you must share that opinion, especially if there is inadequate evidence to back up such claims. As a critical thinker, it is your duty to embark on a quest for the truth, tossing aside skeptics' arguments and searching for evidence that might validate or disprove preconceived notions. You need to put aside preconceived notions about such assertions and search for sufficient, convincing, and consistent evidence. For instance, there are those who argue that the earth is flat. You don't have to accept this theory just because it gained a lot of attention online years ago. Before you believe such claims, you may want to look at a selection of reliable sources such as updated and relevant scientific studies and textbooks. The application of healthy skepticism is not limited to these sciences but also extends to politics, religion, history, marketing, and many other fields. Being gullible causes more pain than being curious. The problem is that not all claims to knowledge are supported by evidence. You must therefore understand what criteria are used to determine if a knowledge claim is known, knowable, or unknowable. The known. The empirical sciences provide us with knowledge in the realm of the known. We know so much more about ourselves, our immediate surroundings, the world we live in, and the universe than we did 50 years ago. This is a result of humankind's capacity for curiosity and desire for knowledge. They were also able to collect evidence to back up such statements. Examples often known are DNA testing, cloning animals, and existence of black holes in the universe. Although, before the examples stated become known, they were first considered as knowable. The realm of the knowable is usually an extrapolation from the known. The technology for cloning human beings is imminent because scientists have done it successfully on Dolly, the cloned ship. In 1996, the first mammal to be cloned from an adult cell, a ship named Dolly, was born. British biologist Ian Wilmot and associates from the Roslin Institute conducted this study. This was seen as being impossible prior to the birth of Dolly. Scientists once thought that adult cells with specialized functions, such as skin cells or liver cells, exclusively stored information relevant to their functions. A single mammary cell that was used to make Dolly had all the necessary genetic material. The question about cloning human beings is a distinct possibility from the knowable to the known. The question of the origin of life on Earth is still on the knowable stage. Other examples of the knowable include the following: origin of life from inorganic matter to organic life, possibility of life in other planets, cure to cancer, other mysteries of the universe. A lot of these are knowable through scientific exploration and further investigation. When a knowable claim is in the realm of the known or the knowable, then it is provable. Here, evidence can be produced either in fact or in principle to support the probability of the claim. When evidence is provable in fact, it means that evidence is readily available. When evidence is provable only in principle,
It means that hypothetically, the evidence can be produced, though it cannot be produced in fact. On the other hand, the unknowable is unprovable. Hence, the unprovable is also unknowable. When a knowledge claim is unprovable, this means that in principle, no evidence can be produced to support the claim, making the claim unknowable. If claims are empirical, it is impossible to produce required evidence, either in fact or in principle, to prove that the claims are true or at least probable, making them unknowable. For example, claims like the presence of heaven and hell or the notion of the reincarnation of the soul are unprovable. Many knowledge claims that are assumed to be true are actually unprovable. Some believe that the afterlife, heaven or hell, is merely an illusion created by religious leaders or stories from the Bible or other religious books. In the larger Christian society, there is a very widespread belief that heaven and hell are primarily earned compensations for the lives we lead on earth. The scales of justice are sometimes seen to balance when good people go to paradise as a just reward for living virtuously, and evil people go to hell as a just punishment for living immorally. But how can this be proven if humans have no capacity to return from the dead to support such claims? The same is true with reincarnation, a theological or philosophical notion that states that after physical death, the soul or spirit begins a new life in a new body, which may be human, animal, or spiritual, depending on the morality of the deeds committed in the previous life. The question of the origin of the universe is bordering on the unknowable, although there is hope that it could pass into the realm of the knowable. Your obligation as a critical thinker is to immediately reject such unknowable claims. If they are taken as evaluative claims, then the required evidence is the strength of intersubjective consensus of people playing a language game while sharing a form of life. As a critical thinker, accept the truth of the beliefs in the realm of the known, suspend judgment if the belief is in the realm of the knowable, and reject all beliefs in the realm of the unknowable. Rejecting the truth or making up one's own opinions and holding them to be true can only be harmful to oneself and maybe to humanity as a whole. When the truth is laid bare before us and we are consciously still deceived by lies, then we are to reap the consequences of our own crimes. That is our obligation. If you are successful, you are going to transform into a critical and independent thinker.
After analyzing the theories of truth, verifying by intersubjective consensus, differentiating the known, knowable, and unknowable, as well as the provable and unprovable, and finally, tackling your obligations as a critical thinker, you are now ready to go on a journey in the pursuit of truth.
Good luck on your journey and get ready to be surprised by the unexpected and to realize the known, the knowable, and maybe the unknowable as well.